We are continuing with factoring quadratics and really solving quadratics by factoring. Your assignment will be found here under Tuesday. It's item number 2, H23. And we want to look at H23 so that I decided to put some of the examples in the assignment so you'd have them right there at hand. So here's the deal. We're going to work these problems, and I want you to copy these on your own paper as we go through them. And we've got 5 examples to look at. So again, we are solving quadratics, and we're doing so by factoring. And we're going to look at A. Now, example A, you've already have it worked out there, but I want you to write down a different way to do it. Now, it is what we call the perfect square of a binomial, but you might not recognize that. It is that because the square root of 4 is 2, the square root of x is x, and then that middle term here, we've got the x, we've got the square root of 4, which is 2, the square root of 9, which is 3, and if I take that 2 times 3 and it's 6 and double it, I get 12, and so it fits that format, but that might not be the easiest thing to see. And that problem doesn't have to be worked that way. There's another way that we can work it. So the other way we can work it is just factoring and sliding and dividing like we've done before, and it'll factor correctly that way as well. Remember how I do that? I multiply it by 4. So 4 times 9 is 36. I'm going to rewrite it as x squared plus 12x plus 36 equals 0. Right, just like that. Now remember, I'm wanting 2 factors of 36 that will add, okay, to be a positive 12. And immediately I think about 6 times 6, because if I add those two, I get 12. If I multiply them, I get 36. So this will factor to be x plus 6 times x plus 6. But don't forget, since we multiplied by 4, we also have to divide by 4. We also have to reduce the fraction. 6 over 4 reduces to be 3 over 2. They're both even, divide by 2. And now to simplify that binomial out, I'll multiply 3 by 2, and so I can rewrite this as 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3 that equals 0. So to solve a quadratic, remember, if factor times factor equals 0, then one of these factors have to be 0. In this case, it's the same factor. I only have to do it once. It's exactly the same. So I want to know, what is x when 2x plus 3 equals 0? Well, I'll subtract 3 from both sides. And I'll get 2x is equal to negative 3. Divide by 2. X will be equal to negative 3 over 2. And I don't need to solve the other one because I'm just going to get the same answer. So that's my answer for that quadratic. Just one answer. And you know, we talked about that yesterday. Sometimes you can have just one answer, and that's okay. Look at a second example here, example B. Jot that down. That's 25x squared minus 1 equals 0. Question? So let's look at a second example here. It's 25x squared minus 1. This is example B. It equals 0. So let's see what we need to do to solve this one. I always need to check my GCF first. I didn't really do that in example B, but I know I had 4, 12, and 9, and the GCF was 1. Same thing's true here. The GCF is 1 as well. What I notice is it's just got 2 terms. And if I'm factoring something that just has 2 terms, then there's a good chance that it's a difference of squares. Term you should become very, very familiar with. The difference of squares. You're going to see them forever. I like them because they're the easiest to factor. Square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of x squared is x. Square root of 1 is 1. Remember, in order for it to be a difference of squares, it has to be subtraction. This has to be a perfect square, and this has to be a perfect square. Remember that it'll factor. One will be positive, the other will be negative. And then I just write down the square roots. Square root of 25x squared, 5x. Square root of 1, 1. Because 1 times 1 is 1. Same thing. So it factors to be 5x plus 1 times 5x minus 1. So I'll set each factor equal to 0. And solve. I know I've got to subtract 1 here and here, so I'll get 5x is equal to 0 minus 1 or negative 1. Divide by 5. So x here is equal to negative 1/5. Same thing with this one, except now I'll add 1. I get 5x is equal to positive 1 divided by 5. X equals positive 1/5. So my answers then is x is equal to negative 1/5 and x is equal to positive 1/5. All right, I want you to look at these 2 equations. I'm going to pause the video and give you a chance to work those 2 on your own, and I'll come back and show you how to do those. So let's talk about how to factor these. First of all, 25x squared minus 10x plus 1. I want to first start by finding its GCF, and just looking at it, because it has a constant of 1, the GCF can only be 1. If I'd had a leading negative, I would have wanted to factor that out, but I don't. So I might recognize that that's a perfect square of a binomial, but I might not. If I don't recognize that, then I can multiply the 25 times 1 and rewrite it as x squared minus 10x plus 25, looking for factors of 25 that will add. This tells me to add to be a negative 10. So it means they both got to be negative. And immediately I think of negative 5 and negative 5 because negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25, adds to be negative 10. So there's my factors I'm looking for. So I'm going to write that as x minus 5 times x minus 5. Don't forget, I multiplied by 25, I've got to divide by 25. And don't forget, I've got to reduce the fraction, so it's 1/5. 5 divided by 5, 25 divided by 5. And x minus 1/5. If I simplify that, I'll multiply by 5. I'll get 5x minus 1 times 5x minus 1. It would have been simpler if I'd recognized that as a perfect square of a binomial. And if I had, I would have known, well, the square root of 25 is 5, square root of 1 is 1. It's be 5x minus 1 because that middle term is negative. But either way, I can factor it. So what I want to do is take the factor, and they're both identical, so I'll just set one factor equal to 0, and I'll get 5x, add 1 to both sides is equal to 1 divided by 5, and x will then be equal to 1/5. So I just have a single answer for that. Now look at number 9. Remember, I said it's important to always check for the GCF. Here I've got x to the 4th power and x squared. And I've got a to 2. So immediately, because they're both even numbers, I know the GCF has got to be at least 2. And I've got an x squared and x to the 4th, so I can factor out an x squared. So let me rewrite that this way. It'll be 4x squared. Now, all I did was take 8 divided by 2, got 4. X to the 4th divided by x squared is x squared. And then minus 1, because 2x squared divided by 2x squared is just 1. Now, anytime I have a binomial, I want to inspect it to see, is it a difference of squares? I've got a difference. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 1 is 1. So, yeah, that's a difference of squares. And it'll factor this way. It'll be 2x plus 1 times 2x minus 1 equals 0. Because I just took the square root of 4x squared, which is 2x. The square root of 1, which is 1. And did that both times. One will be plus, the other be minus. Difference of squares factored. So, I've got now 1, 2, 3 factors to set equal to 0. 2x squared equals 0. 2x plus 1 equals 0. And 2x minus 1 equals 0. Well, for this first one, if I divide both sides by 2, 0 divided by 2 is 0. And so what times what gives me 0? Well, x has to be 0 there. Anytime I multiply and get 0, x has got to be 0. Well, that's a zero product property. I can't multiply 2 times anything and get 0 unless the thing I'm looking for is 0. Subtract 1 from both sides here. I get 2x equals negative 1. Those cancel. Divide by 2, x is equal to negative 1/2. Add 1 here. 2x equals 1 divided by 2. X is equal to positive 1/2. So my answers are 0, negative 1/2, and positive 1/2. I've got 3 answers. Remember, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that if you have a power of 4, you could have as many as 4 answers. This one had 1, 2, 3. Doesn't have to have 4 answers, but it could have as many as 4 answers, no more than 4. So automatically, when I look at 8x to the 4th power, I know I could have more than 2. I could have 3. Could even have 4. That could be a possibility. But in this case, I just had 3. X was 0. X is equal to negative 1/2. And x is equal to positive 1/2.